Chapter 4. Jasmine. "He said he loves me," ruefully remarked Jasmine as she speared a piece of lettuce with her bamboo fork. The hospital she worked at had recently gone green, and plastic was out when it came to the cafeteria. "He did?" Priya looked at her cousin in surprise. "What did you say in return?" "I couldn't," sighed Jasmine. The call ended. Ever since then I have avoided talking to him. He calls and I let it go to voicemail. "Why?" Priya cocked her head to the side. "I have Googled the man. He is handsome and rich. He thinks he's in love with you. It's not like you're young anymore." "You sound like Mother." Jasmine rolled her eyes. "I don't know. What if he ruins our friendship with this love nonsense? What if I did fall for him and then I have to return home? You know Father's health isn't good. I could be asked to go back at any time now." "Take him home with you," shrugged an unconcerned Priya. Jasmine looked at her cousin in exasperation. "You know an American won't go over well as my husband." "Who said you had to marry him?" a cheeky Priya asked. Jasmine tossed a piece of lettuce at her cousin. "Squeaky clean reputation, remember? It's the reason you're my footsteps everywhere I go." "I could look the other way," murmured Priya with a happy sigh, "especially if he will introduce me to one of his cousins. They are very good looking." "I think America has corrupted you," smiled Jasmine. "I was always corrupt," huffed Priya. "I simply never showed it." "That isn't exactly true," murmured Jasmine, remembering all the pranks the pair had been involved in while growing up. Munching on a carrot and looking up, Jasmine saw that her cousin had paled and was setting her drink down with a shaking hand. "What is it?" "He is here," hissed Priya. "Marshal Ramsley is here." "No," breathed Jasmine in disbelief. "You're joking." "He has flowers," whispered Priya as she looked across the expanse of the hospital cafeteria. "Pink calla lilies." "My favorite," murmured Jasmine, touched Marshall had even remembered. "He looks so handsome in a suit," mentioned Priya. "The photo I saw had him in scrubs. It was some PR thing about how Ramsley HMC had a real doctor on the board to help guide decisions." "This is why it wouldn't work," whispered Jasmine. "He loves being on his hospital board. It makes him feel like he has a chance to guide policy. He wouldn't want to marry me, then he'd have to give up his position. Ramsley's like to come first. He would have to be second in our relationship." "He is coming this way. Janice at the front kiosk pointed you out." Priya straightened in her seat, wiping her face with a napkin. "How do I look?" "How do you look?" asked Jasmine in confusion. "If you don't want him," shrugged Priya, "there's no reason I cannot marry an American doctor. I think my parents would definitely approve." Jasmine raised an eyebrow. "You're not serious." "It's half the reason they sent me here to follow you around." Priya mimicked her mother's voice. "Come back with a rich doctor. We didn't send you to expensive medical schools to get substandard grandbabies." Jasmine couldn't stop the bubble of nervous laughter. Her aunt did sound just like Priya had portrayed her. "Jasmine?" a distinctly male voice asked. A sexy voice that she had talked to nearly every day for the past 3 years. A voice she had shared nearly everything with. Nearly everything except the biggest secret she owned. Her breath caught in her throat. Jasmine slowly looked up to see what had to be the handsomest man she had ever met, standing before her in a perfect black suit, holding a bouquet of her favorite flowers. Black hair and a sensible cut, blue eyes, classic features, tall but not so tall as to be a problem. Marshall Ramsley was Hollywood handsome. Her bamboo fork fell from lifeless fingers. She was at a distinct disadvantage, sitting here in scrubs, no makeup, her hair tied back. Priya cleared her throat, jumping to her feet. "Yes?" Jasmine gave her an astonished look. "Excuse me?" Marshall tore his gaze away from Jasmine to Priya. "I'm Jasmine." Priya straightened her slim frame, smiling brightly. "No." Marshall gave her a critical look. "I know Jasmine. I know her voice. We've been speaking over the phone for nearly 3 years now." "I sound different over the phone," hastily explained Priya. Marshall shook his head. "I heard Jasmine laugh when I came over to the table. I'm sorry, you're not her." Priya huffed in annoyance. Jasmine couldn't help but laugh again at Priya's expression. "You will have to forgive my cousin. She enjoys pranks." "It's nice to meet you, Priya," remarked Marshall with a smile, recalling Jasmine's cousin's name from their numerous conversations. He was more handsome when he smiled, thought Jasmine. His eyes crinkled at the corner. She dragged in a breath and tried not to fall into lust just looking at him. Her traitorous heart skipped a beat. "I will take those flowers and put them in water," sniffed Priya, plucking the bouquet out of Marshall's hand. She gave a wink to Jasmine. "Good luck, cousin. You know what I would do." "What would she do?" a curious Marshall asked as Priya walked away. Jasmine ignored his question and tried to get her thoughts into a coherent order. Good manners prevailed, and she found herself asking, "Would you care to have a seat?" "Not just yet." Marshall pulled something from his pocket, going down on one knee before her. "Marshall," Jasmine managed to say as her eyes were drawn to a delicate ring in his hand. She watched as he slid it onto her finger, then kissed the palm of her left hand. Jasmine closed her eyes at the sensation of his lips on her skin. "Think about it," rasped Marshall, still holding her hand. "You and me." She had thought of nothing else since he had suggested the idea over the phone. Jasmine opened her eyes to see him uncertainly watching her. "I would like to spend the rest of our lives together." He swallowed thickly. "I love you, Jasmine. Marry me." It wasn't so simple. What would her parents say? He wasn't exactly on their candidate list of who their only daughter should marry. It had been a miracle she had convinced her parents to let her learn and practice medicine here. It had only happened because she had given her word she would return and be the dutiful daughter when it was time. A groom from America? Impossible. Yet there was no one else she wanted to spend her life with, her traitorous heart replied. She had a duty to her family. She had a duty to Jasmine, whispered Marshall. He reached up to wipe away a tear from her cheek that she had not even realized had escaped. So lost in her thoughts she had been. She was going to have to refuse him. However, before she did, why not have one kiss? One taste of everything she was about to miss. Laying a hand on his shoulder, the other on his cheek, Jasmine leaned forward and kissed him. Marshall kissed her back, settling both hands on her ribs. He could probably feel her fluttering heart. Jasmine wanted to sink into him right there. His kiss was everything she had imagined it might be and more. She reluctantly pulled away. "Is that a yes?" he asked hopefully, searching her face. She meant to say no. She had to say no. "Yes," came her breathy answer straight from her heart. She had fallen in love with him. Maybe she had been in love all along. Marshall smiled. Raising himself to his feet, he pulled her into his arms, sweeping away her good sense with another kiss. Oh, what had she done? Thank you for listening to this chapter of The Wedding, Book 10 of the Ramsley Brothers series. Each weekend I release usually 2 chapters of a book. When I've collected all the chapters together, I usually release the entire audiobook, maybe a month after I've finished releasing the final chapter. This gives you the option of either listening to it chapter by chapter or just searching out one video with the entire book on it. You can also find my books on Audible. Happy listening!